Right, we're joined with Nicole Mollett, lead artist, Art of the Centre. Nicole, it's always good to speak to you here at the Monday Night Community Show. Firstly, although we've sort of talked about it before the room on the Monday Night Community Show, I was just wondering if you could refresh our listeners into what exactly it is.
Yes, it would be a pleasure. Room is a blue shipping container. It's a standard shipping container which has been altered into an art space. So whereas most shipping containers tend to be empty on the inside, this one's actually been beautifully lined with hardboard panelling, and it's also got about 4 different windows that stick out at different angles, so that allows people to peer in to see what's going on, but also obviously lets a lot of light into the space, so it's actually quite airy when you come inside. So actually only one room, which is why we've called it room, but we've seen it perform a number of functions, and it's currently travelling around Swale and is on the plaza in Laysdown.
Actually, I was going to ask you about that. You've been very busy. Could you tell listeners a little bit about where the room's been in recent times?
Well, okay, so it started off in Rushenden. That was last November. It was for the Richard Perry launch, which is a piece of public art that's now permanently installed down in Rushenden. And then we went on to Sheerness. We did a series of photographic projects in Sheerness over winter, so mostly in January actually. That was to launch the 365 project, which maybe some of your listeners know about, but basically the idea is to do a photo diary of the island where there's a photograph for each and every day of the year. So we were helping sort of support that project by running a series of photo walking workshops with an artist, one guy called Matt Rowe, and the other artist, her name was Agnieszka Kolowotsky, or Kolowotska, I've said that wrong, sorry, and she was the resident artist for Queenborough Rushenden. Then we had a show of her work. She did very special images of the sea and the waterways around the island using pinhole photography. Then we moved on to Sittingbourne, and we've had 2 local artists shows inside, one of whom was Julie Bradshaw. Her work was about her grandfather, who used to be a bargeman on the creek down in Milton, and she tried to collect people's anecdotal stories of the experience of living on the creek, and she's going to make a film work about that. And then another show by an artist called Sue Pito, who's very interested in recycling, and she actually completely altered the internals of the space, covering it in rubbish and dustbin bags and all sorts of colourful objects and artwork. So yeah, no, that was great, and now we're in Laysdown.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the room being in Laysdown, and perhaps even a bit more on the future of it as well?
Yeah, no, of course. Well, basically, we're here in Laysdown till the Laysdown Carnival, and the first show will be by Lucy Harrison, who's been our resident artist for the last 5 months in Laysdown, and it's going to be a very interesting show, but I'll let her explain that idea in more detail, because I wouldn't want to get it wrong. And then followed swiftly by a painter called Greg Reed, who's currently in one of the studios in Borough Hall in Queenborough, and he's actually going to turn the room into his studio for about 3 weeks and be making paintings responding to Laysdown as he's here. And then we move on to Milton Creek itself, not the High Street, but actually on the creek for August. And then we've got 2 artists, Trish and Dan Scott, doing also a sort of mini, if you like, live residency within Room, where they're going to do works that respond to this idea of regenerating public spaces. And the project's called Change Management. But yeah, I can elaborate if you like. But that's the current programme. But we are having more projects possibly coming in September, which we're currently programming. So,
how can our listeners find out more about the room? Have you got a website?
Yes, we have. It is www.swale.gov.uk/AATC, which stands obviously for Art at the Centre. But you can actually go to the Swale Council website, and there is a link on the main page to it up at the top right, I think it is, says Art at the Centre. So that's the easy way to find us.
Nicole, as always, thank you very much for speaking
to us.
That's Nicole Mollett. We're out and about here at the Monday Night Community Show, and we've been talking to here in the room down in Laysdown.